Peace and love, everyone. Today, I want to cover, a new saga, new series, so that I can just share some information for those who are interested in going on this journey with me to uncover some truths about what's taking place here on planet Earth. And today, Mercury has finally uh, went direct. Peace and love, Mother Clarissa. Um, Mercury has definitely been through a lot of different life lessons for all of humanity, and now it's time to shift forward, especially with you know things of dealing with the mind. So I want to do a different lesson today, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint. So uh, hopefully this can be some of some benefit to those who will be watching and view this later. And let me know uh, if it helped at all. So we're going to go ahead and share and get started. Okay, so today we will definitely be talking about um, the Tierra Saga, and I want to focus on the foundation of control, um, and just give a different perspective on some things that's taking place as we learn together. So what's on the agenda for today? I want to give an introduction. Um, I want to talk about some lessons that we can learn from Tierra. Okay, I definitely want to talk about who is Tierra, um, the creators. Okay, we'll get into that, um, and the structure that the creators um, set forth, and then we'll do a Q&A. If we have people who have questions at the end, and then we can get to that. So here's a caveat for everyone that the contents that's covered in this presentation is not a conspiracy theory. This is just information that I have gathered and have been, studying myself, and will continue to study. So this is a quest for truth, so that we can, grow and evolve. The aim is to rid ourselves of self beliefs, self limiting beliefs, and thoughts um, that we were programmed with since we were children. The aim is to inspire thought and ignite the fire within to discover the truth on this journey through Tierra. Okay. So, why Tierra is the first question. Why Tierra? Um, a lot of people may say, isn't this planet Earth? And the answer is yes, it is called planet Earth, but it also was called, according to the Greeks, Gaia, to the Aztec, Tonantzin, okay, our mother, the Incas, Pachamama, Mother Earth, and so on. You see the list continues on from different ages and different civilizations. They have different titles for what you would call Mother Earth or Daughter Earth, some would call. So here's some other names for Earth. Gaia, G, Great Mother, Magna Mater, or Mater, Tellus, Rhea, Demeter, Shambhala, Terrestus, Terra, and so forth. Okay, so these are different names. Here's the definition of Earth. Okay, when you look up on the sources, atomonline.com, Old English, okay, comes from, literally means ground, soil, dirt, dry land, country, district, and is also used along with mid dangert for the material world, the abode of man, as opposed to the heavens of or the underworld. Okay, so literally dealing with the ground, soil, or dirt. So when you hear people say that they are um, aboriginal, okay, or indigenous, they're talking about the perspective of coming from the soil or earth itself, being made from, or autochthonous, coming from the rocks itself. So here's some facts about Earth that we, definitely want to cover. That Earth is the third planet from the sun, and it was commonly thought in past times that the sun revolved around the Earth, but we know that that's not true. The Earth is the fifth largest planet. Um, Earth is not the only planet that sustains life. You may be saying, well, how is that the case when scientists have already said that Earth is the only one that can sustain life? Well, they just recently, and not just only recently, but they have recently uncovered that watermelons can grow on Mars and other fruits and vegetables as well, and other planets, as beings on other planets as well. Um, Earth has a diameter of 8,000 miles. 71% of water covers the Earth's surface. A fifth of the oxygen on Earth comes from plants, hence the need to respect plants. I know sometimes you see plants, or you want to snatch them right up from the ground, but remember they are alive, so they also provide oxygen to you as well. It takes Earth 23.9 hours to complete a rotation on its axis, and it takes 365.26 days to complete an orbit around the sun. So the Earth's axis of rotation is tilted in relation to the ecliptic plane, and the ecliptic plane is an imaginary surface through the planet's orbit around the sun. So it's kind of like a tilt, and you can actually see it rotate. So this means that the northern and southern hemisphere will sometimes point toward or away from the sun, depending on the time of year, and this changes the amount of light the hemisphere receive, resulting in the changing seasons. Okay. All right. Let me just put this on mute 1 second. Okay. And the average distance from the sun is 92,956,050 miles. Earth is purported to be 4.6 billion years old, and some sources say that it's much older than that. So for all of those who have a time frame that the Earth is 6,000 years old, that's simply not true. Earth's atmosphere is roughly 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, with trace amounts of water, argon or orgone, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Orgone is that blue tint of hue that you see around in the sky, and you say that the sky is blue, but it's actually that hue, that tint of blue that you see, that's orgone. And that is a lot of power in orgone. Just a side note, the orgone is helps balance you and acts as a dialer that you can put on the back of your phone. This also retracts radiation. Earth is becoming more magnetic. Okay, it's very important because as things are evolving on Earth and speeding up fast, we need that magnetism to help us to evolve because our body supports this magnetism energy. And Earth has one moon, which is a satellite, and it's hollow. So, Earth is definitely unique, is a very special planet, one of the only planets that has 4 different seasons. So Earth is very unique. So as we go through this presentation, I would definitely like to keep in mind to remember this principle, the Trinity principle, when observing truth, because it has a lot of esoteric meaning behind it. So let's observe the Trinity in reference to the pyramid. Okay. And when you look at the pyramid at the base of the mirror, that pyramid is actually called mirror. The actual term is mirror, M-E-R. And those who built the pyramid or the mirror were mirror men. Okay. So there are 2 poles symbolic of light and darkness at the base of the pyramid or the mirror. Okay. And at the top of the mirror, there's an apex connecting both light and darkness, bringing unity. So on one side, you might have truth, the other side, falsehood, and then here's the actual truth that connects everything together. This mirror can be used and to measure where civilization is evolution or is devolution, okay, devolve. This mirror also represents the Trinity in man's mind and the system of government. So you have the pineal gland, pituitary gland, hypothalamus gland. This also represents your three branches of government: pineal, have the legislator, pituitary gland is the judicial, and the hypothalamus is the executive. So you have your three different branches right here from made from your mind. And this mirror covers over 13 acres on a plateau. Okay, when we talk about the mirrors in Egypt or Giza, um, it covers over 13 acres on a plateau and is not too far from the Nile River. This mirror is an equilateral triangle that spans 480 feet in the air, and there are four sides at the base, which is 750 feet long. The distance between the top, which is the apex, and the corner, okay, is 1/4, is the same as the base. Okay, so you see the mathematics taking place here. And this means that this is a perfect equilateral triangle. This weighs close to 6 million tons and is composed of 200 and 200 million, I'm sorry, 2,500,000 blocks of stone. Okay, so the mirrors are made of sandstone. Okay, and why is this important? Because the sandstone capital of the world is in Amherst, Ohio. So this raises more questions of how the ancients was able to carry or get those stones all across the world, because even to this day, Amherst, Ohio is still the sandstone capital of the world. And you can actually see that the mirrors around the world have these sandstone metals, okay, or precious material. So in the king's chamber, which goes upward towards the queen's chamber, there's a granite stone that weighs close to 300 tons each. Okay, so this is just dealing with the math and science and the weight of everything that's taking place here. The timeline that the mirrors were built is purported by many that this structure was built in 2686 BC to 2181 BC, and that it was built for a king who used 1,000 slaves over 20 years, and it took him over 20 years to complete it. And we know that that's false because there were no quote unquote slaves back in ancient Hikupta or Tamari. There was no quote unquote concept of slaves. Slave is a nationality of the Slavic people, and that did not take place, especially how they tell the story. When I say they, I'm referring to the scientists, archaeologists, and things of that nature. So the eye is the eye of Horus and is reflected in the falcon. Okay, and the oldest falcon bones in the world is found here in America. Okay, so the mirror was not built on sand. That's one thing that you got to always keep in mind. I'm sorry, this got off. Let me see. Get back. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So the mirror was not built on sand. Okay, if you ever try building, a house on sand, especially quicksand, in those conditions and climate, things would be too hot, and then also, it would not have a solid foundation. So that also is a false narrative that's put out there. The mirror also is symbolic of the key to activating the Merkaba. Okay, and the Merkaba is a will, a multi-dimensional will, a ship that everyone has within them, and it can be activated through the activation of the chakras and the pineal gland with the Kundalini rising up. And this is your transportation system. So when you talk about, I know a lot of people talk about the Anunnaki and all these different beings and traveling with ships and wheels and UFOs, but you really don't need those. You have it yourself if you have higher vibrations. And it's interesting because this concept of activating the pineal gland takes place when you are breathing. Okay, the art of breath. And the falcon actually, in order to raise the vibrations and fly and take flight, they have to breathe. Okay, so very esoteric meanings behind all this. Okay, and this is also symbolic of the crystal that once stood at the top of the mirror, symbolizing the ability to combine two forces to make three and become multi-dimensional. So, again, those forces were electricity and magnetism. And then when you combine that with the pineal gland, this provided that third force. And then the mirror itself provided that fourth force, um, which created this biosphere dynamic force where you become multidimensional and can travel without all of those other instruments. Okay, and so moving on, you see here the first Egypt, the ancient Egypt, or what you would call Tamari, is actually here in North America. Okay, here is a picture of the Mississippi River flowing down um, and crossing the Ohio River. So the Mississippi River represented the Blue Nile, okay, and the Ohio River represented the White Nile. So and where the two connect, okay, where they intersect, you get a city in Illinois called Thebes and Cairo, okay. So this is Egypt over here. It was a mirror city, a twin city, the cosmic mirror reflecting down the same thing that's happening on both sides. And here's, a different picture. You have Ohio here, and you have Mississippi. These two connect right here in Illinois. This is what gives you Thebes and Cairo. Okay, and Cairo literally means Caire, and Caire means Mars. Okay, and we're going to talk about why is Mars important. But moving forward, when you look at the straight line theory, the mirrors all around Tierra, which we call Earth, was built to balance Tierra's orbit. Okay, so if you observe one pyramid, regardless of its location on Tierra, you can draw a line to connect to other pyramids on Tierra. And there are mirrors at Williams Town, Montana, North Fork of the American River in California, Arizona, Illinois at the Cahokia Park, and that one is bigger than the one at Giza. So just to give you some examples, and for you to do your own research, you can see that for yourself. And there's many pyramids here that's in America, mounds and step pyramids that are not, talked about as in comparison to the ones that were built that is more ancient than the ones in what's commonly called today Egypt. So why is this important? Because when we're looking at the pyramids, AT&T and telecom, the CEOs, they hid that this vital information that in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is a mirror. Okay, and it's made of crystal. It's blue, and this corporation was formerly under operation of the Northern Telecom and connected with Nortel, okay, another corporation. And they partnered with Bell Labs and used this pyramid to send signals to an orbiting satellite in order to get telecommunications across the international ports. Okay, this mirror is twice the size of the mirror at Giza. Okay, and the problem with this is that it's a very important monument, and this belongs to the nationals of the territory. Yet billions of resources were generated from the uses of the structure, and it's being hoarded. And this is another issue that you deal with. A lot of the natural resources being uncovered and used by these big CEOs for these big tech companies and CEOs of these companies. So the snake mounds, okay. Another thing to recognize or make everyone aware of is the snake mounds that run from Ohio to Pennsylvania. Starts in Cahokia Park at Illinois, and there's a chamber in the center of this structure Someone of high importance was buried right in the center, and there's a lot of circles in the center of it. And their spearheads forming a circle pattern facing the person who was buried in the center. And each spear reflects a color from the rainbow. Okay, showing that the light patterns. Okay, the 42 degrees of the pyramid, the light bending, and to form that bow. Okay, and it's made of those spearheads are made of different stone from Tibet, Africa, Japan, and all over the world. This is right here on our soil. Okay, so people from all over the world came to visit this person of high importance that is not disclosed who this person was, but I just wanted to show you. And then when you look at the serpent mound from above, you see the actual pattern that it makes. And when light hits this, when the sunlight hits this pattern, actually activates and lights up. It looks really beautiful, but you got to have a sky view of this. And again, this extends to Pennsylvania, so it's very. These structures like this are very unique and are wonders, really, of the world. So as we look at some ancient legends, Maldek was destroyed. It was another planet, and its moon Valona, which used to orbit between Mars and Jupiter, was destroyed, and Mars was wrecked by that. And you see them going back to Mars and talking about Mars. There's a lot of things going on with that, but from this incident arose two orbiting moons on the Martian landscape, Phobos and Deimos. Okay, so this is where fear comes from and demon come from Mars. Okay, it's two moons. And you might ask, why is this relevant? Because number one, you have to follow the finances. The nationals are taxed to pay for the project to go to Mars and to view the pyramids on Mars. Yes, there are pyramids on Mars. There's pyramids throughout the solar system, or mirrors throughout the solar systems. And our ancestors have already had contact with Mars and Martians in ancient times. Okay. This is stemming back to the days of Atlantis. Atlantis was a colony from Mars. Number three, at Cydonia, they have found a 5-star pentagram structure. Okay, and I did my best to get you the picture right here. This 5-pointed structure. Okay, and I want to point your attention to your flag. Okay, your flag is a 5-pointed green star. Okay, with a red canopy. So red represents Mars. The 5-pointed star represents Venus. So we definitely had connections with both throughout the ages. Our ancestors used different calendar systems. We also use Venus, the Venus calendar, to grow our crops and plant and do different things of that nature. So this 5-pointed star is very important. It's not talking about, devil worship or anything of that nature. Also, they found another city. Number 4, they found another city on Mars. And they found a face on Mars. They found this face on Mars, and as you can see here, here's the face, and here's, blown up. And this face, they have confirmed that life can be sustained on Mars, but this face resembled that of a dark-skinned queen with braids on the island of Grenada. And they have also found pyramids on the moon, Venus, and throughout the solar system. The face that they found resembled the queen of the island of Grenada. Okay, and they actually sent the military down there to remove all artifacts because it looked just like her when they did an overlay of the picture. Okay, and then here you go. Here's a picture expanded. You have the 5-sided pyramid here, the city, the face, and you have a spiral mound. Okay, wall, crater, things of that nature. So here's an ancient legend. There were Syrians who came from Sirius to create people to serve them, to mine precious metal from the soil. And some scientists, geologists, researchers, they said that the capstone was taken off the apex of the mirror, and that the 2 vent holes are there to vent air into the mirror. So there's a debate that in the sidereal heavens, Polaris, that's above Tierra, passes over the structure at certain times, and two constellations will shine light directly into the king and queen's chamber through those holes. Um, and the two constellations are Sirius and Orion. Um, the last royal monarch that we had of Kemet, they knew that they were the last bloodline of the god race, quote unquote, and they knew about the inscriptions on the on the halls of Kemet. And Orion was placed over top as a constellation placed over top to symbolize the hunter. Okay, and it literally means the foolish one searching for the souls to capture. And we see a lot of that taking place today. And Sirius, there's different Sirius A, B, and C. You have Canis Major, and Canis Major is the K9, and it is the dog stars that has two binary sun systems. So, um, and there's another sun system that moved into our atmosphere that's not being publicly reported by NASA and other mainstream. But the purpose of this is to help magnify and intense things so that you can continue to use that magnetism, because it brings a lot of healing energy and a lot of downloads. So when we look at the Trinity, okay, the Trinity was copied and um, used by the United States Service Corporation, the Great Seal of the United States. This is where you see this mirror. This is a pyramid on the Federal Reserve note and other places. This was used in 1776. The Latin phrase "Novus Ordo Seclorum" means the new order of the ages, symbolic of independence as a nation. For the U.S. corporate owners, they were declaring their independence 1776. And this Latin phrase was coined by Charles Thomas, and he got this from the earlier centuries. Different stories. This is all for them Masonic, and it appeared since June of 1782. Okay, so here's the guy Charles Thomas here, representation of him, and this is what they use in Anut Acceptus. The Lord has favored our undertaking. This is what they have adopted as their great seal, and as you can see, the pyramid head is disconnected, so taking away the consciousness. This is what it's symbolic of. And then we have again this great cosmic mirror. So they decided to again adopt the ancients symbols. And in ancient times, we used the falcon as our seal, and it's well over 15,000 years old. And the U.S. corporation, they use the eagle as their seal, which is a little over 232 plus years. So you see, we use the falcon. The peregrine is the fastest animal in the world, and has keen insight. But the eagle is one of the most vicious predators over the world. And if you were to overlay the constellations over all of the territories, you would see different animals that will pop up. And the eagle is over the U.S. This is why Scorpio is on the U.S. natal chart rising or ascendant sign. And Scorpio, you might be saying, why Scorpio? The higher octave of the scorpion is the eagle. This is why they call it Aquila. It says e pluribus unum, out of many nations one. And you have the 13 stars, and this is the 13 colonies, symbolic of the 13 bloodlines that started the 13 corporations. So then you have also the Sphinx. Okay, in Giza, the Sphinx is 36 feet tall, 240 feet long, and the weather patterns on the Sphinx reveals that this structure is much older than what is purported and told. According to the Dogon, there were no desert climate there when these structures were built. So you definitely have to keep this in mind, that the deserts provide evidence of two things. Number one, that there was a lot of radiation, high ultraviolet energy taking place to make this climate change. And number two, the disappearance of an ocean took place, okay, because of this desert. This is evidence that supports that. And Charlton Heston said in one of his series when he was covering Egypt, he said that the Sphinx may be Negroid. Okay, so we know when Alexander went to Egypt, he shot off the nose of the faces that he's seen. So this was showing you, here that the truth is still there. They were showing you in that documentary that he did on Egypt, Charlton Heston. Flashed a quick face over there, and that's what he also showed the Mars as well. But continuing with this mirror structure, you have here the bloodlines of the Illuminati, as they are called. Illuminati simply means enlightened ones with knowledge, light bearers. Here's your 13 families or bloodlines represented, and they all are connected. So this mirror structure, in 1943, there was a conference that took place at Tehran in Iran between England, the U.S., the Soviet Union, the Jesuits, and other ones to discuss a new world order. And this was done strategically after control over the former Frankish kingdom principalities that was formerly known as Austria, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. So the term global elites is referred to as ushering in this nation state taking over and removal of national independence. So the goal is to remove national independence so you can have a one world system. So there are many events that point to the evidence of this already, and it's still taking place. And there's a lot of events, on the other hand, that's interpreted for the masses. And as a side note, the general masses receive news from the mainstream and social media platforms at a sixth grade reading level. Okay, so they don't really get up-to-date information for adults so that they can digest and dissect. They get fed it like a child would have it. And as an example, can be found in some of the Sustainable Development Plan of Agenda 21 that goes through 2030. A lot of these things are already in place, and they are doing some of these things. And you might say, well, no poverty, that sounds good to me. And quality education, that sounds good to me. But you have to really read between the lines when you look at a lot of these plans. So these elite include some of the most powerful and influential and wealthiest people, including but not limited to those who work in politics, big corporations, and what they call, quote unquote, the black nobility of Europe, or in other words, the British Crown. And some of the objectives are to reduce the population, national independence, and national boundaries. And this is all for control purposes. So here again, the 13 bloodlines, they're called the Illuminati. That's what they're called. Members of secret societies that stem back to the ancient world. The 13 families are likened unto corporations. So you can think about 13 companies, 13 colonies, 13 bloodlines. So you can observe the 13 stars over the eagle. And that's also can be, symbolized by two pyramids, higher and lower self, what they call hexalpha. So the business structure is corporate in nature and deals with ends legis fictitious persons. So this is what they have created. The creators have created these fictitious persons, and their goal is to improve the lives of the corporate employees who think that they are citizens and nationals. Okay, that's their goal. But you might be asking, why improve their life if they're trying to take their life? Because it's the whole principle of giving the illusion that you are free. The best serfs are those who think they are free. Okay, a serf is who you would think today of a quote unquote slave. So the goal is to get the employees to waive their birthrights. Okay, and a lot of people are unaware of these bloodlines being owners of this global corporation that is at work. Okay, here's your just an illustration of it. Here's another illustration. The two forces, here's the corporate model. Two forces at the base of the pyramid causing strife on Tierra is number one, dogma, number two, fiat. The challenge is to find a place on Tierra that these two forces are not factors in the function of society. Okay, so if you can do that, please let me know in the comments and we can go from there. And that'll be news to me. These forces evolved throughout the ages and can be traced back to Babylonia, Sumeria, and even earlier than that. The natural order to preserve oneself through finance and prosperity have been manipulated by the quote-unquote religious leaders and the international bankers. The method of a quote-unquote God system has been here for ages, and there has always been priests and orders to control what these quote-unquote gods desire. Okay. Humans have been programmed to have fear of death, mistreatment, poverty, hell, you name it, within their constitution, within their body. And this fear is marketable. This is the marketable product and is used throughout the ages. So we're actually going to take a journey in a couple episodes down that path. But this product gives the corporate owners control as the consumers buy in. Okay, so the more you buy into the product of fear, death, destruction, and hell, the more they benefit and profit from it. So the modern priests serve as administrators for the corporate owners without the people's knowledge. They reinforce the product of fear, getting many of the consumers to believe they are talking about the universal creator. The corporate owners also adjust the product to meet the marketing goals and profit goals, while the priests, which are the administrators, tell the people to accept these policies because it is what quote unquote God wants. And the masses tacitly acquiesce to this structure and waive their birthrights in the process. So here's the planetary corporate structure. This is their net profit from dogma structures planetarily, and it's controlled by the owners. This is their net earnings. So as you can see, the different franchises here, Christianity, Islam, a non-religious, Hinduism, you name them. These are the different franchises that the corporate owners use. They have a large employee listing, huge net earnings. Here you can see the percentages. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with, right? Just observe some of these numbers. Right, 2 billion. You're looking at all of these different organizations, establishments as corporations, as franchises. Okay, and this is continued. Scientology, growing. This is what you're looking at, right? And this is current as of this was during the time of 2012. The numbers. This is from the census, and then here you see the numbers as of 2012. So where is the corporate headquarters if there are corporate owners is the question. And that is Vatican City. Okay. And does this structure look familiar? Okay. You have the woman's womb here. Okay. And the male penis here. This is symbolic. This is exactly what took place in Kemet. Okay. Alkebulan, Egypt. Okay. Still have this structure, this obelisk. Okay. The principle of the masculine and feminine combined. So they're saying that they rule the world. Okay. This is creating that Ankh. And when we look at the leading franchises, the question, are they the leading franchise? Well, let's look at what they produce. Their products are fear, guilt, sin, and rewards and indulgences. Package deals they sell. The wages of sin is death. So repent and be baptized and live faithful. Or the rewards for righteousness is eternal life. They do have a credit system, which is to prepay for sins consumers haven't committed yet and get pardoned ahead of time. Their marketing strategy is in a tier system, which fits for the sincere unlearned, all ages, all nations. And the cost for their product, wages of sin. Okay, The theft of estates is also a big thing, focal point that they focus on, and you'll see some of that. But in the corporate manifesto and charter, which is the papal bull Romanus Pontifex of 1455, you definitely want to pull that document up and cover that because it's very interesting, the language that's used as if it's written today. But the testamentary deed of trust by the crown over land is covered in that document. Um, they call themselves the heir to Tierra, and the heir apparent is the Roman pontiff, which is the successor or key bearer of heaven and earth, known as the vicar, which is also the pope. And the vicar means substitute. In ancient times, you would call Egypt, we had the pharaoh. So the pope represents the modern day pharaoh. The Catholic franchise owners make a declaration of trust for the record that they will have dominion over the earth territories by the process of kings and queen rulers coming into the line of faith through Christ and dominion over their souls with the power to put into slavery, which is bondage, or rid disbelievers from the earth. This is what they declare. Declaration of trust. Are they the leading franchise? Well, let's look at the Catholic franchise. They have a separate jurisdiction. They have their own laws under canon laws. They rule over a little more than 2 billion people. So you could say they have 2 billion employees. They have investments in the Rothschilds in Britain, Canada, France, and the U.S. They have a large investment in Shell. Okay, Shell Corporation Gas. They have large investments in General Electric. It has gold bullion stored in the Rothschilds Bank of England and the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. They have the biggest financial institution, wealth generator, and property owner, out earning any bank, corporation, or government. And it has a branch office in every neighborhood. So every time you go in different neighborhoods, you see all these different churches, you're looking at one of their branch offices. Assets and real estate holdings exceed those of the Standard Oil and AT&T and the U.S. Steel combined. So are they leading? The numbers show for themselves and their assets. As far as due paying members, they are second only to the U.S. corporation. And they're one of, if not the biggest stockholders in the world. Okay, the United Nations magazine estimated their gold to several billion. Okay, so just to give you some of those numbers, and this is the planetary debt. Okay, this planetary debt, which they call the public debt by countries, and I want to make clear that the United States, the U.S., is not a country. That's Title 28. You can look it up for yourself. But here's the rank, and right now you see all of these corporate constructs, okay, because the people of those land are not having proper representation. This is the public debt that's incurred, okay, and here it is continued, more public debt, okay, this is throughout the world, okay, and it's now every quote-unquote country or nation is in debt. I just listed these top ones here. That's close in number. Okay, but the question is, who are they in debt to? That's the question that needs to be asked. Okay, who are they in debt to? Okay, the corporate investment. Okay, here's your employers. This is the U.S. Department of Defense. Here's the number of employees. People's Liberation Army, Walmart, McDonald's, National Health Service, China National Petroleum Corporation. So you see many different corporations and the number of employees that they have. So all of these corporations, and they have a lot of different employees that they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And this has helped generate this debt, okay? And then here we see the corporate investment This is how the finances are being invested um, by each bank. Okay, Bank of America, number one. Um, just giving you an idea, concept of the numbers. It's a lot of other banks that I could have put on here, but I put the top ones that were close in proximity. And here you have, the other ones. And Deutsche Bank, by the way, Deutsche Bank, where are you at? Deutsche Bank. Um, Deutsche Bank here, they just released a statement saying that the inflation is so high that you're gonna have to get prepared for this, and this inflation, this big bubble that's about to burst. So we've been telling people to stock up for some time. Inflation is here. Definitely want to be prepared. Okay, so let's review. This is the Trinity method. Remember, truth, falsehood, and the actual truth brings unity. So you always have to look at things from three different sides. So to review, man has created corporate structures. Okay, throughout the ages, progression has been stagnated and controlled. Corporations are gods as kingdoms. Man create belief systems to control those who believe them. Man style these belief systems as religions. Most of the belief institutions are incorporated. The result of these systems are death, destruction, hatred, war, you name it. Also, a repayment of debt until death was created. Man created corporations to control and facilitate commerce. Corporations are created under the laws of holding corporations, guised as municipal, local, state, federal, national government, and that is owned by the global elite, aka the 13 bloodlines. The corporate regulations does not apply to the corporate owners. The corporation grants privileges and liabilities in exchange for birthrights. The corporate owners hold the books that has created the ends like its credit and debt spreadsheets, and all transactions that control the world. This model is accepted, repeated, and practiced by the ones who are being violated by the corporate owners themselves. So the corporate owners have created a planetary incorporation. Okay. So how did this happen? You have to observe this corporate model that creates a pyramid of power, control, obedience towards a common interest of the elite. Okay, this pyramid that they created stems back to a time period in Sumeria or Sumer, starting with the religious temple. The ziggurat temples were the buildings where the priests were. Some of the ziggurats were as high as 70 feet. The religious class maintained power and control socially, politically, and economically. This was the most important building in society. It was built in the center of the cities, and the ziggurat of Ur was on a platform 200 feet long, 150 feet wide, and rose 70 feet above the plain, and dealt with the wealth of the citizens of that time. So when we look at the incorporation, the ziggurat temples were viewed as places of prestige. They were used as venues to respect the gods, quote unquote. And the people was told that gifts and sacrifices would give them protection and success on Tierra, Earth. The priest was the mouthpiece for the gods, and the temple priests employed people, and this was the center of commercial transactions. This temple was also used as food storage and distribution. So then when we look at the lifestyle back then, the ziggurats had courts, they had artisans that worked there, children that went to school, farmers that stored their goods there. The poor were fed there. The priests were an example of the gods, quote unquote, on Tierra. And the priests owned and controlled the land on behalf of the gods, but they also administered land as well on behalf of the gods. And the priests ran the school system. Okay, no different than what the Catholic Church adopted in the 1400s, or really early into that, to control what was being learned at that time. So some people couldn't even have Bibles. A lot of people couldn't own the very book that they were trying to practice and go by. So you see the manipulation that was taking place there. And then we also know about the great book burning that took place. So throughout the ages, this is kind of the blueprint that was laid down. It's still taking place to this day. Um, so let's look at corporation, what it means. This corporate structure and this corporation from Black's Law, 5th edition. Corporation, an artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state or nation, composed in some rare instances of a single person and its successors, being the incumbents of a particular office, but ordinarily consisting of an association of numerous individuals. Such entity subsists as a body politic under a special denomination, which is regarded in law as having a personality and existence distinct from that of its several members, and which is by authority vested with the capacity of continuous succession, irrespective of changes in its membership, either in perpetuity or for a limited term of years, and of acting as a unit or single individual in matters relating to the common purpose of the association within the scope of powers and authorities conferred upon such bodies by law. Dartmouth College versus Woodward. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with when we talk about a corporation. You have your many different types: public versus private, ecclesiastical, sole, domestic and foreign, business, civil, close, de facto, joint, non-profit, non-stock, quasi. Okay. Okay, and here's a breakdown. Um, we see what follows a corporate model. You have here corporate authorities, okay, corporate trustees, corporate purpose, corporate name, corporate body, corporate entities, corporate charters, corporate officers, corporate agents, corporate bonds, corporate citizens, corporate stock, corporate crime, because they have been robbing and doing a lot of things in the name of businesses so that you cannot sue them for deliberate tort injuries to your person, your actual flesh and living, breathing person. So this is what we're dealing with this corporate model, taken and perfected and still used today. So here's some of the subsidiaries. These are the key debt collectors and financial generators. The Vatican, where they have the churches, many of the subsidiary franchises around the world to collect, as well as the IMF. Okay, and the IMF, holding company and trust of all the lands and the transaction that take place on the land. And then you also have uh, the Federal Reserve that has an arm in there as well in the corner that's responsible for getting those bodies to the Secretary of State. Secretary of State has ownership over the wards of the state. And when you talk about the funerary process, a lot of our people are their organs are taken, and a lot of their body is taken for and sold on the human trafficking market. It's a huge market that they're selling a lot of organs and things of that nature on. So they all play a key piece to collecting and generating finance. So here's the corporate king rule makers. Here's some of your top billionaires. And this is not all of them. I just put some of the top, some of the most notable or wealthiest ones, but they all are connected to certain that bloodline, okay, and certain secret societies and orders and things of that nature. So these are the ones who are your rule makers, okay, and get people to waive their rights. These are ones behind closed doors calling all the shots. Okay, and here we have the Planetary Corporation, which they say Earth Incorporated. The name for this incorporation is Planet Earth Incorporated. It's a fictitious entity. The mission is to rule at all costs. At all costs. The and the method is to rule through beliefs in commerce. The charter is their license to do business, and in it, it talk about de facto color of law, how they are going to go about carrying this mission out, and what is their limits and duties and responsibilities within this charter. Um, hint, hint, why you need to pull the corporation's charter to see what they are permitted to do and what they shouldn't do. Employees, the conscious and unconscious. So whether you are aware or not, and you tacitly acquiesce, you are for hire. And its subsidiaries are the franchises, which are guised as religious and public service institutions. Okay. And then we see here the principality of powers. Here's the pyramid. It's kind of why I don't like all those pyramid schemes. You get some finance that you got to get somebody else to join. There's just the same method that they're using, but counter to the evolution of humanity. So at the top you have the quote unquote gods. Okay, those are the beings that are here also influencing, because not everybody you see in politics and government are what you think they are. 13 bloodlines. Again, we talked about those, the kings and queens, um, rulers and dictators, international leaders, presidents and chief executive officers, and then, of course, the earthlings, our planet Earth, Tierra. And then, of course, you have principality of powers when it comes to the business structure. Again, the gods, quote unquote, at the top, the global corporation, dynasties, kingdoms, nations, multinational corporations, and then again, earthlings at the bottom. So, if I could sum all of this up, I definitely would want everybody to remember, you have birthrights that are unalienable. And part of that birthright is to remember the fact that you have a purpose that stems beyond civic nature. I know a lot of us are civic minded because we've been hidden from civics, but it also stems to, the higher consciousness of man as well. And also to realign to the universal truths that produce balance. Okay. Because a lot of times our people are practicing principles, but they're not practicing those things that produce balance. So at this time, I would take any questions if there are any. Peace and love, everybody. Is there any questions? Any questions on the subject that we covered? Okay. Okay. All right. So this is the first one. How did you guys? Can you speak on bonds? Um, yeah. So bonds are supposed to be, there for protection as far as insurance is concerned. So, for example, if I go into a business, I'm supposed to have insurance to cover me for um, any injuries that I may cause or things of that nature. So, the bond piece come into play where these corporate owners are supposed to have insurance and be bonded just in case they cause injury. Um, they also create bonds on our people as far as using different instruments like the birth certificate, the social, or you name it. They create these bonds to generate finance and funds on closed accounts. So if you are, say, for example, your mother give you a sign you up, with the Secretary of State register you are unaware that she just created a bond. And just going back to the common sense of the word bond, it's a connection, right? It's for liability, right? And we bond together. That is, something we used to say, your word is your bond. Your bond was something was in place for your insurance. So if you was signing a contract, you were doing things of that nature, you would have some type of insurance to protect you as the individual, and then also protect those who you'll be doing business or transaction with. Does all of the bonds have ties to the prison system? Um, there's a lot of bonds that have ties to the prison system. I want to say all of them, but a lot of them do. And there's in Tennessee is the headquarters for all of the bonds companies. So the insurance companies, the bonding companies for the prison systems is in Tennessee. So they have a lot of bonds that they are generating each day on closed accounts so that they can profit and benefit. And just like when you pull the charter for these corporations, you also supposed to get the bond information, and that's what's going on Tierra now. Why a lot of our people are not um, evolved, because we don't know basic civics in order to be able to counter a lot of this stuff, and the elitists are already several steps ahead. So yeah, that's the importance of bonds. Bonds are there for liability purposes and insurance. Public officials are supposed to have bonds. And these global elites, if they claim to be public officials, then they're supposed to be bonded just in case they cause injury, deliberate tort in general, you name it. So good question. Any other question? Any other question? Well, I'm glad that Mercury went direct, so things are becoming more clear. What steps can you take if someone breaches a contract? If the first step is giving party some type of notice? Yeah, if they breached, that's breaching the trust. So if someone breach a trust, then you definitely want to, um, go back to the original contract. Do anybody have any questions on the presentation? There's a good question, but I want to stick to the presentation. So that way I know what we can, or how I'm going to approach the next one. Any other questions on any other PowerPoint? Definitely thank you everybody for joining. Mercury is direct now. Oh, no problem. No problem. It's all right. Yep. And we also know that Venus is opposing Pluto. So, that's a aspect you definitely gonna want to look out for. Pay attention to your loved ones. But any other questions? Any other question? And also, you want to definitely go ahead and stock up. We've been telling people that there's a reason why China or why Texas, have this new. Just to give you some headlines, there's a reason why China have a. I'm sorry, I keep saying China. Texas have a quote unquote gun law that they passed because China is trying to go after that land because they running out of land to feed their citizens. So you better get prepared. Been telling people that just as a announcement. So get prepared. Stock up, store up. Inflation is here, so get yourself prepared for that, and then just be aware of the prices that's going up everywhere. Have all your things you need before it takes place, and stuff are already popping off now. The end of this month and the beginning of the next season, so you definitely want to look out for that. Any other questions? Any other question? All right. Well, definitely appreciate everybody joining. And hopefully we could keep this going. And I want to do more interactive. So I'm going to start dropping a link, and maybe you guys can help me read and help me get deeper into these PowerPoints. If you have information you definitely can share, we can we're gonna be on this journey together. So I'm definitely looking forward to continuing this and keeping it up. Let me know some topics you guys also want to cover. I do have a lot of information I want to share, but we on this journey together. So um, I hope you all have a beautiful week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And for those, we are having class tomorrow. If you're interested, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Um, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And if you would like access to that, send us an email and we'll get you the invite. We're having a special class tomorrow. Um, and then also well, I'll save the other stuff that we're doing, but um, yeah, so just let us know, send us an email, and we will go from there. And if you need an astrology reading, natal chart reading, um, I do have my different software. I'm very excited about that. This software, we've been working to get this back up. This software is um, finally back. It crashed, so I finally got it back up. So I could do way more stuff in the natal chart, all type of things. So if you need a reading, if you need tarot card reading, any of those things, just email us and we will get to you and go from there. So I hope everybody enjoy your day. Peace and much love. Thank you for joining, and I will see you next time.